What's going on, everybody? It is total madness time. This time for UFC 254, Nurmagomedov versus Gaethje. We have got one hell of a card this week, and we always want to approach these fights looking for every nook and cranny to find a good bet where we can make a little bit of cash. So we are looking at the totals, over, under, 1.5, 2.5, 4.5, whatever it might end up being, to try and find that hidden value. Let's go ahead and dive into this week's card and see what we've got going on. First fight of the night, we've got Alexander Yakovlev taking on Joel Alvarez. We've got a total, it looks like, set at 2.5 here for this one. Over 2.5 is plus 130. Under 2.5 is minus 150. Now, my look on this fight is, honestly, I'm kind of thinking Joel Alvarez comes out here and gets the dang thing done. The only problem is we hit on Joel Alvarez as a big underdog not too long ago, and the secret's out. Everybody knows what this guy's capable of at this point. Alexander Yakovlev goes to the judges' scorecards more often than not. This guy's a solid wrestler. He's a grinder, low output, likes to do his work on the mat. So if he takes this fight to the floor and he can stay safe against Joel Alvarez, this one might be headed to the judges' scorecards. More often than not, I think Joel Alvarez does get the submission. So I'm going to say that it finishes inside the distance. However, I don't really want to lay minus 150 on that under when Joel Alvarez really has to rely on Yakovlev messing up in some way for him to go ahead and get that submission. Alvarez is better on the feet. He's got more output, more volume there as well. So he could potentially win a 3-round decision. This is not one that I would suggest betting. But gun to my head, if I've got to make a pick, minus 150 on the under 2.5 is the way that I would look. Kenney taking on Nathaniel Wood. We've got the total once again set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 220. The under 2.5 is plus 180. Now, this fight is extremely interesting to me. Kenney is making a real short turnaround. I think he went home after his last fight on Fight Island. He's now traveling back to Abu Dhabi, and this is at a catch weight. So we don't know what that kind of travel is really going to do to him. We don't know what kind of toll it's going to take. We have seen Nathaniel Wood finished by John Dodson, one of the hardest hitters and fastest hands in the division. Kenney is showing off a very improved striking game, so there's always a chance that Nathaniel Wood could get caught here by Kenney, especially when we're talking at a catch weight. He's got that extra weight on him. He's got that extra blood pumping through him, so he has the opportunity, maybe a little bit more pop on his punches than normal. Maybe he can catch the knockout, but I don't know that that's actually going to happen. Wood is very durable. He minds his range. He's probably the better striker of the two. Kenney, more often than not, is going to be the better grappler, but Wood is very, very difficult to take down. This one, I think, more than likely does go to the judges' scorecards, and usually I want not one but two people contributing to my unders when I take that shot. So plus 180 on the under 2.5 is very tantalizing. It's tempting, but it's not something I think I'm going to pull the trigger for on that fight. We've got Liana Jojua taking on Miranda Maverick. We've got the total set at 2.5 here. Very interesting spot. The total is minus 110 to the over, and it looks like minus 120 to the under, or minus 105, minus 115 in some points. So this is basically a pick'em price. They're saying slightly more likely that this one squeezes under that 2.5 mark, which is very rare in women's fights. More often than not, they're looking for these things to go all the way to the judges' scorecards. The issue here is Jojua. She's kind of a wild card. She's got an excellent submission game. We've seen her snap people's arms off from the guard. She's very, very good at that. Miranda Maverick is a strong wrestler, a nice, good, solid striker on the feet. She uses a karate style, manages the range and the distance. So Miranda Maverick has got this thing pretty much locked up from every aspect except for the pure jiu-jitsu portion of the fight. If she takes this fight to the mat, we've seen Maverick slow down in rounds 2 and 3. However, when she starts the fight off, she's very, very dominant in her wrestling, especially early on in the fight. There's a chance that she could get snapped up. She could get reversed. She could get taken down herself by Jojua and then ended once this thing hits the floor. But if Miranda Maverick stays on the feet, minds her range, when she takes her to the floor, she minds her P's and Q's, stays heavy on top, this probably is going to the judges' scorecards. My prediction is going to be Miranda Maverick by decision. So over 2.5 at minus 105 doesn't sound half bad. The only issue is we do have a spot here where both women can finish. Jojua can finish from the bottom, from the top. Anytime this thing hits the floor, Jojua is very dangerous. And Miranda Maverick does have some solid ground and pound on her. If Jojua is not quite ready to go, the TKO is always in play. So again, maybe not one that I am planning on betting just because Jojua is so random. We really don't have any idea what she's going to look like here in this fight. Da Un Jung taking on Sam Alvey. Smiling Sam Alvey. The total set for this one is 1.5 rounds. We've got over 1.5 at -140, under 1.5 at +120. Da Un Jung is a finisher. This guy goes out to knock people out, and he's made no bones about it. Sam Alvey, more often than not, goes to the judges' scorecards, but he's got some pop in his hands as well. In fact, over half of his wins are by knockout. He came in recently on an interview talking about how he's having trouble winning on the judges' scorecards lately. He himself predicts a round 2 TKO victory. So I think these boys are going to get after it. If I was going to look on this fight, I would have to say the under 1.5 at +120 because Da Un Jung, he's got heavy volume. He is really, really active in there. So he's going to come and try and put it on Sam. He's either going to clip Sam and put him down early, or he's going to provide the opportunity for Sam to come in there and take him out as well. And if we're going to believe Sam on his word, round 2 is definitely in play. So the under 1.5 at +120 would be the way I'd look here on this fight. Next fight up, we've got Alex Cowboy Oliveira taking on Shavkat Rahkmonov. Shavkat is brand new to the UFC. We don't really know if this guy's ready for this big step up here, but he was a big underdog earlier in the week, and that line has flipped. He's officially at a pick'em price tag around the world right now on the betting sites that I can see. We've got a total set at 2.5. The under 2.5 is +125. The over 2.5 is -145. This is a spot where I'd be very tempted in that under 2.5 at plus money. Both these guys are more than capable of finishing their opponents. We've seen Alex Oliveira be knocked out. We've seen him be submitted. Shavkat's got a 100% finish rate. When he wins fights, he finishes them, and that's just the way it goes. He's got knockout power in both of his hands. He's got a decent ground game. He can finish from the bottom. Alex Oliveira, strong, powerful wrestler. When he gets on top of people, he's got good, mean ground and pound. He's got a good, solid submission game himself. So if these guys are going to get into a striking war, I think more often than not, somebody goes down. We've seen them both rocked. We've seen them both hurt. Neither of them are necessarily made out of iron, and both of them look to step it up once they do get clipped. So that under 2.5 at plus money, very tempting to me. Stefan Struve taking on Tuivasa. We've got a total here at 1.5. Over 1.5 is -135. Under 1.5 is +115. This is a spot where surprisingly I'd be looking to go over. Even though we've got heavyweights, even though we've got guys that can bomb on each other, we do have two people that can finish here in this fight. We're talking about a 1.5 total as opposed to a 2.5 total. I'd go under 2.5 all day in this spot, but I would want that extra round in my back pocket if you're going to play the total here. Stefan Struve has a sick ground game. If he can get this thing to the mat, he can submit Tuivasa. However, I think he's going to have a hard time doing that. I don't know if he's going to be able to manage to get this to the floor, and unless Tai knocks him down and then jumps on top of him, I don't really see it happening. Tuivasa, he needs the win here. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. He's essentially fighting for his job here in this spot. I think he's going to attack the legs of Stefan Struve. He's got a sick leg kick game on him. He's going to use that athleticism, circle move, hit him, get out while he can. And then I think that overhand right is eventually going to present itself. I think Tuivasa is going to knock out Stefan Struve, and if he doesn't knock out Stefan Struve, then this thing probably goes to the judges' scorecards. I think we see Tuivasa 2.0, and I think that over 1.5 at -135 is probably the way to go. Cutelaba taking on Magomed Ankalaev. This is a really fun fight in the heavyweight division, light heavyweight division. We've got undefeated Magomed Ankalaev. I'm sorry, he lost to Paul Craig. He is not undefeated. We have Ion the Hulk Cutelaba, a guy I'm an absolute massive fan of, just from a fan perspective, not from a betting one. And with this total at 1.5, things get very, very interesting. Over 1.5 is -125. Under 1.5 is +105. So you're getting slight dog money on this thing ending early. What we saw from their last fight was Magomed Ankalaev trying to hit Ion Cutelaba with a big head kick, and Cutelaba basically played possum and wobbled around so much the referee believed him and called the fight off because he thought he was that hurt. Ion Cutelaba is just so untrustworthy. The dude will do goofy things in the cage. When he gets in there, he's been known to throw illegal knees in damn near every single fight. He got disqualified in one before. He got away with 2 of them very recently, and then there was one that he just barely missed the side of his opponent's head that if it had landed, he probably would have been DQ'd. And then he does the thing like he did against Ankalaev where he plays possum so much, he actually got the fight called off. So it's hard to trust this guy with your money. The price is getting in the right area where you can roll the dice on him all the way up at +270. But beyond that, I don't really know what else to look at here. He's going to finish the fight early if he's going to do it, right? Ion Cutelaba is just a monster. He goes in there, flails all over the place. He's not super technical, but he hits hard as hell. So if he's going to knock out Magomed Ankalaev, he's going to do it early. If he doesn't knock out Magomed early, Magomed's probably going to take over the fight. He's far more technical. He's willing to backpedal. He's got a good wrestling game on him, and he likes to use that range. So honestly, I think Ione does not get the knockout early. I think Magomed starts to take over, and betting the over 1.5 at -125 for Magomed to basically size up Ione Cutelaba and pick him apart over the next couple of rounds, that seems like a much better way to go. This thing could end in the second round. It could end in the third round once these guys kind of slow down and get tired, but I think we're going to see a better version of Ione Cutelaba than we have before, and after the way that last fight ended, I think he's going to have a change up in the game plan as well. So we'll see what happens. This is another one where it's very volatile, really no idea how it's going to play out because of the way the last fight went, but if I had to make a bet, I would be looking over 1.5. Lauren Murphy taking on Shalia Shakarova. Lauren Murphy is a big favorite here in this spot. We've got Lilia, who is going to be a short notice replacement here, and we've got a total set at 2.5. This one has my eye. We've got over 2.5 at -430, and under 2.5 is +345. So you're telling me that we can get damn near 3-1 on our money for this fight to go under 2.5 rounds. Shalia is brand new to the UFC. We don't know if she's ready for this level, and she's fought really no competition whatsoever. Looking at her fights, looking at her record, she has fought nobody impressive outside the UFC. She's got good hands, she's got good blitz attacks, she's got heavy bombs that she throws on people, and she's got solid wrestling. Lauren Murphy is very, very difficult to take down. She has good volume, very good, solid striking, and she's a serious power puncher for the women's division as well. I think we've got a train collision coming on here. I think these two women are going to come out, and they're going to get after it. Lauren Murphy is knocking on the door of a title shot, and at 37 years old, she can't afford to lose, and stamping somebody like a UFC newcomer out early, making a statement, letting everyone know where she should be in the pecking order here is something that's very, very much on the table. And then if Lilia does show up and make a statement herself, maybe she does belong in the UFC, she shocks the world, surprises everybody, comes through as a 2-1 underdog, she probably gets it done by knocking out and hurting Lauren Murphy. I don't know if she can actually out-technique someone like Lauren Murphy. She's not going to be able to take down Lauren Murphy. She's going to be the smaller fighter here, coming in on 9 days' notice. Who knows where her gas tank is? If she slows down after round 1, round 2, Murphy finish is definitely on the table for me, and I think that plus 345 might be worth a little bit of a flyer. We've got Jacob Malkoun coming in here against Phillip Hawes. Jacob Malkoun is another UFC debutant. Phil Hawes comes to us from the Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, and that dude's got absolute missiles for hands. He comes out like a monster early on in these fights, and we've seen him have some gas tank issues if he's not able to get his opponents out of there. Jacob Malkoun is a talented boxer. He's got a 3-0 boxing record, and he trains with Robert Whittaker. So, longtime training partner of a championship caliber MMA fighter. He's only 4-0 as an MMA fighter himself, but he seems to be pretty solid, pretty technical. Honestly, this one, I'm going to look at the over. We've got an over set at 1.5, -140 to the over, and +120 to the under. I think Phil Hawes knows that he can't be going for broke out here. He's done it before. That bit him in the past, and I think we're probably going to see him come out a little bit more slowly. Malkoun probably knows what he's in for here. He's going to be durable. He's going to be technical, and he's going to look to drag this thing out as far as he can. Maybe look to capitalize on Phil Hawes' gas tank running out in the second or the third rounds, or just trying to win 2 out of 3 and get that decision. But I don't know if Malkoun has the power to actually finish somebody like Phil Hawes. We just don't have enough tape on him. This is another one where it's extremely volatile because we don't know a ton about Jacob. Phil Hawes could end this thing in round 1. Phil Hawes could gas out after trying to end it in round 1. I wouldn't suggest putting your money on this one, but again, if I had to make a spot pick here, I'd be looking over 1.5 to see this thing go a little bit later. Alexander Volkov taking on Walt, the big ticket Harris. We've got a total set at 2.5 for this one, what kind of leaves me scratching my head here a little bit. Walt Harris is a 1-round or bust type of fighter. Now, he's rehauled his entire strength and conditioning program. He looks to be in excellent condition for this one. And Alexander Volkov is a decision machine. Now, don't get me wrong. He has got some finishes on his record. He wins by knockout quite a bit outside of the UFC. But against these upper echelon type of fighters, he's usually outclassing them and taking it to the judges' scorecards. Walt, though, is another one of these fighters with a very suspect gas tank. So if he does not get this fight done in round 1, I don't think he's going to be able to to stand with Volkov for 15 minutes. I don't think he's going to be able to make it to the judges' scorecards, taking the volume style beating that Volkov puts on people. I think the under 2.5 is not a bad look here, and we definitely have two people that can contribute to that thing cashing. It's minus 130 to the under 2.5 and plus 110 to the over 2.5, unless you're absolutely convinced that this thing goes to the judges' scorecards. A flyer on the under doesn't look like a bad opportunity to me. Jared Cannonier taking on Robert Whittaker. This is our co-main event of the evening. Once again, we have the total set at 2.5 here, and it's basically a pick 'em across the board. This one is extremely tough for me. I am personally backing Jared Cannonier here. I think this is a spot where he will be able to clip Robert Whittaker, but Robert Whittaker has made a career of making people like me eat those words. He just never dies. If this thing is going to go Robert Whittaker's way, it's going to go over 2.5. Jared Cannonier is made out of absolute iron. So I know Robert Whittaker has the skill set to finish people. He's more than capable. I don't think he can finish a guy like Jared Cannonier. Cannonier can definitely get the finish, but then we've only got one of the two fighters who's contributing to our under. An under 2.5 bet is basically a bet on Jared Cannonier. I don't see many ways that Whittaker will actually be able to finish this fight, so an over 2.5 bet is basically a bet on Robert Whittaker. The fight is a pick'em. The total is a pick'em. Pick your poison. I'm on Jared Cannonier. That correlates with the under. I think the under is going to come in. I think Jared Cannonier is going to clip Robert at some point late in round 1 or maybe early round 2 and put this thing away. Main event time, we've got Justin Gaethje taking on Khabib Nurmagomedov. Championship time. I am so pumped up for this fight. I cannot wait for this one. It's going to be fun. It's going to be violent. It's going to be intense, and I cannot wait. So the total set on this one is 4.5 rounds. The under 4.5 is set at minus 175. The over 4.5 is plus 155. Basically, the odds makers are telling you this thing is not going to the 5-round judges' scorecards. And I have a bit of an issue with that. So the way I see this fight playing out, Khabib is going to do what Khabib does. However, he has been known to play with fighters on the feet a little bit. He wants to test his striking. He thinks he's a better striker than people give him credit for. Justin Gaethje is a lifetime wrestler. He's a guy who can defend the takedown. He's a guy who's got footwork and movement, and he'll be able to get out of some of these opportunities where maybe some of the other fighters didn't. Cause a scramble, get back to his feet, that kind of thing. I think this fight is going to go deeper than people expect, and honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if it goes to the judges' scorecards. I'd be looking to take a bite out of that plus 155 for the over 4.5. The only issue is I talk about fighters both being able to contribute to an under hitting, and we have that in spades here in this fight. Justin is the highlight. This dude's got more power than anybody at 155 in his hands. If he lands one clean shot on Khabib, he can put him away. I know Khabib is insanely durable and no one's been able to knock him out before, but this is Justin Gaethje we're talking about. It's a different level of power. And yes, I do think Justin Gaethje hits harder than one Conor McGregor. Khabib on the flip side of this thing, we've seen him get people out of there time and time and time again. He chokes them out. He drags people into the deep waters, and when they can't take it anymore, he wraps up that neck. So obviously that's on the table for him to do here. The only thing is I think Justin Gaethje is tough enough that he's going to be able to survive the onslaught. I think he's got the gas tank that he'll be able to hang with Khabib. He's not a Conor McGregor who's going to gas in the second round after throwing too much or grappling a little bit. This guy is on a different level when it comes to his gas tank than some of the previous opponents that Khabib has faced. And we have seen Khabib go to decision a couple times before, like against Alvey, who's another natural wrestler. I think this thing stands a pretty decent chance to going over. If you don't mind rolling the dice a little bit, you can get the over 2.5 at minus 130, you can get the over 3.5 at plus 123, and then you can get the over 4.5 at plus 155. If you want to buy down to one of those alternate totals, the over 2.5 at minus 132, that's probably the best option out of all of them. I don't mind this thing getting into the third round at least, and I think that's probably a pretty solid bet. If this fight ends, I think it ends late because one of these guys is going to have to gas out for that to happen. We've seen Khabib take some big shots before and keep on coming, and we know he's either going to be all in or all out. So he's not going to give you much opportunity to hit him until you create that opportunity. Gaethje can land the knockout, but I'm not seeing a round one flying knee type of situation. I don't think this is going to end early. So I'd be looking to the over. The over 2.5 looks very, very enticing to me. The over 3.5 looks fun. The over 4.5 looks dangerous. but I wouldn't be surprised if this one makes it all the way to the judges' cards. That's total madness. This is Odds HQ. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe here to odds.com. Give me a follow over on Twitter at DieHardMMAPod. Good luck on all your action. Let's roll.